Welcome, everyone. This is the Masterclass. My name is Patricknazareth. I have around 30 years of teaching experience, and I'm here to help dispel your doubts, should you have any. Today, we continue with our explanation of Julius Caesar, looking specifically at Act 3, Scene 2. Examining the context first. Caesar has just been assassinated. His murderers have bathed their hands and their weapons in his blood. Now we shift to the Roman Forum, or the public square. This is a place where the citizens could gather and the senators would address them. If there were anything to be heard, speeches, political debates, everything went on over there. Caesar's body has been brought here for a public funeral. Thousands of ordinary Romans are assembled. What is the political situation prevailing? Brutus and the conspirators control Rome, but only just. The people don't know what to do. They're confused and afraid. They do not know how to react. Antony has Caesar's will and bloodied mantle as his special weapons. Octavius was Caesar's heir and nephew, is approaching Rome with his army. This scene will decide the fate of the conspiracy, whether it collapses or succeeds. This scene contains the greatest speech Shakespeare has ever written in any of his plays, when Antony addresses the mob. How does it come to pass? First, we have Brutus' speech, who addresses the crowd in the forum. He tries to justify his assassination on the grounds of honor and Roman liberty. The crowd approves of his decision to do so. Brutus leaves, but allows Antony to speak. There is no one to counter him. Antony starts his funeral speech. He turns the crowd completely against Brutus and his conspirators. Caesar's will is revealed. Antony shows how much Caesar loved the people and how much he gave every Roman citizen. His bloody mantle is displayed, the tears in them where each conspirator thrust his dagger. The mob gets inflamed to a fury. Antony has set off a riot. They move away the conspirators' houses. Why is the scene important then? Brutus has won the argument but loses the war. Antony wins nothing through logic. He uses emotion to play on the people. The power of rhetoric and manipulation over reason is the central lesson. Do we listen to our hearts, or do we think things through? The mob has been transferred from passive spectators into a weapon of civil war. Let us summarize the scene then. The place is the Roman Forum, where the public awaits where Caesar's body has been displayed. The time is shortly after the assassination, which occurred on the Ides of March 44 BC. Who are the characters? Brutus, Cassius, Mark Antony, the citizens, and a servant. What happens here? Brutus and Cassius split up to address the crowd from separate pulpits. Brutus speaks in plain prose. Caesar was ambitious. He had to die. The crowd cheers Brutus. Some even shout, "Let him be Caesar in Caesar's place." Brutus instructs crowd to stay and listen to Antony. Then he leaves. Antony arrives with Caesar's body. He starts his speech. Friends, Romans, countrymen. He uses the phrase, Brutus is an honorable man. And each time he repeats this phrase, it is more sarcastic than the last. Antony finally produces Caesar's will. The crowd insists that they want to hear it. Antony descends to the body, shows every wound, names every conspirator. He holds up Caesar's bloody mantle, describing the stabbing. He reads the will. Caesar has left money and gardens to every Roman citizen. The mob goes wild. They vow to burn the conspirators' houses and their bodies. Antony is left alone in the square. Now let it work. Mischief, thou art afoot. Lines 1 to 47 forms Brutus' speech. He speaks in plain logical prose, not poetry. This is in itself significant. We shall see why later. What is the content of his speech? He asked the crowd to judge him by his honor. He asked the crowd to believe him. It's not that he didn't love Caesar, but he loved Rome more. He accuses Caesar of ambition. As Caesar loved me, I weep for him. As he was ambitious, I slew him. He poses a question before them. Would they rather be slaves under Caesar or free men? Who is here so base that would rather be a bondsman? What is the reaction of the crowd? They cheer him enthusiastically. Some are so moved that they would like him to become Caesar. Imagine how deeply ironic it is. He kills somebody to prevent him becoming king, and the crowd want him to take up that mantle. Brutus has won them, but it is a temporary victory. What are the fatal mistakes he makes? He speaks logically instead of emotional verse. Logic cannot compete with feeling. He leaves before Antony departs. He trusts that the crowd will stay persuaded. Orders the crowd to hear Antony. I do entreat you, let not a man depart. Lines 48 to 109 are the opening lines of Antony's speech. He has come before a crowd who is hostile, who believes that Brutus has done the right thing by assassinating Caesar. He must turn them against Brutus and other conspirators without appearing to do so. He starts his speech with epic words, friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears. The order is deliberate. Friends plays on a personal level. Romans are second on a civic level, and countrymen on an emotional level. Contrast this with the way Brutus opened his speech. Romans, countrymen, lovers. Antony immediately makes himself one of them. He makes himself a friend, not a politician. Then he uses the honorable man technique, repeating the same phrase, Brutus is an honorable man. Each repetition becomes more ironic as Antony keeps on piling evidence upon evidence showing that Brutus did the wrong thing. He never directly accuses Brutus. He allows the crowd to reach that conclusion for themselves. First time he uses it, it sounds very genuine, that he actually thinks of Brutus by that as an honorable gentleman. But by the fourth use, even the crowd can understand he is simply being sarcastic. He builds an emotional case. He reminds the crowd what Caesar did for Rome. He bought captives. In other words, wealth came to every Roman citizen. He reminds them that Caesar wept for the poor. Ambition should be made of sterner stuff. Each point is followed by the way he says, yet Brutus says he was ambitious. And Brutus is an honorable man. Lines are 110 to 197. The will is introduced. He shows it to the crowd. Does he read it to them? No. He uses withholding as a technique. Why? He says, it is not meet. You know how Caesar loved you. He says, if he reads the will, the crowd would get angry. They would cry for revenge, which is exactly what he wants. But it is not now. He wants them to request him, to beg him, to plead with him to read the will. And the crowd does exactly that. He manufactures their desire. He descends from the pulpit, stands beside the body with the crowd. Then he holds up the mantle, another physical prop. He describes each cut by each conspirator. Look, in this place Cassius's dagger ran through. Key quote, this was the most unkindest cut of all. Most unkindness is grammatically incorrect, but it describes the shock that Caesar felt when he realized that Brutus was one of the conspirators. It is emotionally devastating. Antony lingers over Caesar's death. Every intimate detail is brought out. It makes it vivid and personal. Then, and then only, does he read the will. 75 drachmas to every Roman citizen, a unit of currency used at that time. His orchards and his gardens, left to the public forever to use at their pleasure. He ends with, here was a Caesar. When comes such other? The crowd is totally angry and they are primed to riot. Lines 198 to 261. The crowd has been transformed from an audience to a weapon. Antony watches delighted his plan has succeeded. What do the citizens shout? We'll burn the house of Brutus. Revenge, about, burn, fire, kill. They take Caesar's body to burn it in a holy place. They will use the wood on which his body is burned as firebrands to set fire to the conspirators' houses. The normally ordered Roman populace has become a mindless, bloodthirsty mob out for only one thing, revenge. They have gone, Antony is left alone. He drops his mask again. He shares another soliloquy. What is the key quote? Now let it work. Mischief thou art afoot. Take thou what course thou wilt. Antony acknowledges that he has deliberately unleashed chaos. Mischief, ironic, because it is understatement. What he has actually let loose is civil war and mass violence. Octavius has arrived. A servant arrives to give Antony this news. Lepidus is with him. Brutus and Cassius, seeing the way the mob have turned, understanding that Octavius is coming, have fled the city. Antony expresses a sentiment. Belike they had some notice of the people, how I had moved them. The conspirators' cause is already collapsing. Civil war is now inevitable. Who are the characters here? This scene is Antony's greatest triumph. It reveals the complexity that is the man. He's a master rhetorician. He uses every available technique at his disposal. Irony, repetition, props, emotion, silence, the will, the mantle, the body. Each is calculated and used for the maximum effect. He is emotionally intelligent. He understands that the crowd needs to feel, not think. He gives them grief, outrage, and greed in sequence. He is politically ruthless. He knows that his inflaming of the crowd will lead to needless deaths. He does not care. Genuinely grieving, his love, his despair for Julius Caesar is a very real thing. His authentic emotion is his greatest weapon, where he shows his love for Caesar. He is patient and tactical. He purposely does not read the will until he is ready, even though the people are asking for it. He descends to the crowd to create an intimacy. Everyone can crowd around him. He names each wound to personalize the murder. The opening is a masterpiece of false modesty. He does nothing but praise Caesar, even though he has said, I come to bury Caesar, not to praise him. Mischief thou art afoot. Take thou what course thou wilt. Reveals his true nature. He has engineered civil war and is satisfied with what he has done. He wins the scene so completely that Brutus and Cassius are forced to flee Rome. Marcus Brutus is an idealist. His speech is totally logical and honest. What is his effect? It completely destroys him. Brutus's speech is admirable but fatally flawed. His very honesty, his decency, destroys him. What are the personality traits of his? He is honest to a fault. He speaks in plain language. I did this because I had to do this. He will not manipulate the people. This is a noble way to be, but ineffective against somebody like Antony. He is trusting and naive, believes that the crowd will take his side no matter what they will hear from Antony. And he trusts Antony to keep his word. Both are fatal misjudgments. He is logically argued but emotionally cold. His speech appeals to reason, the head, not the heart. Caesar was ambitious, thus he had to die. There is no grief, no feelings, no personal connection. Ironically misunderstood. The crowd wants to make him Caesar. They have entirely missed his message for the Republic. His key quote, not that I love Caesar less, but that I loved Rome more. His justification is genuine but delivered without warmth. Who is here so base that would be a bondsman? If any, speak. For him have I offended. It produces only compliance from the crowd, not genuine conviction. His speech wins the moment, but loses the day. His departure, the one single decision that hands Antony the victory. The citizens is actually a character. They are fickle, emotional, and dangerous. Observe how the mob journeys through the scene. In the beginning, they are confused and divided. Some want to hear Brutus speak, some want to hear Cassius. After Brutus, they cheer wildly. They are all for what Brutus and Cassius has done. During Antony's speech, they shift. Methinks there is much reason in his sayings. After they have observed the bloody mantle, they are fully turned. O piteous spectacle, O woeful day. And after the will, they turn into a riotous mob. What is the mob intended to represent? Shakespeare presents the mob as a warning that democracy will not exist without reason. They are easily swayed by whoever speaks last. There is no independent judgment. Their shout of let him be Caesar shows that they want a strong leader, not a republic. They respond to emotion, props, and money, not logic or principled thinking. Key quote, methinks there is much reason in his sayings. It shows how the mob is beginning to turn. Antony's technique is working. What is the significance? The mob is Antony's weapon. Once the crowd has been unleashed, even Antony cannot control it. What are the literary devices used by Shakespeare? First, irony, verbal irony. Brutus is an honorable man. The repetition becomes more sarcastic. Antony says one thing but means just the opposite. Anaphora. Repetition of Brutus is an honorable man, and I speak not to disprove what Brutus spoke. Builds a cumulative ironic effect. Rhetorical questions. Did this in Caesar seem ambitious? Forces crowd to answer no themselves. Prose versus verse. Brutus speaks in prose, plain, logical. Antony speaks in verse, emotional and elevated. The contrast itself signals who is more powerful. The climax or the tricolon. Friends, Romans, countrymen. 3 words building an emotional weight. Dramatic irony. I come to bury Caesar, not to praise him. Antony does nothing but praise him. The audience sees through the deception. Synecdoche. Lend me your ears. Ears represent full retention. Lithos. Understatement. I am no orator as Brutus is. Antony is demonstrating his oratory while he is denying it. Pathos. The display of the wounds and the bloodied mantle, the will with its gifts, personal names of each conspirator. Double superlative, the most unkindest gift of all, grammatically wrong but emotionally overwhelming. Soliloquy, now let it work, mischief thou art afoot, reveals Antony's true calculating nature. Apostrophe, oh, what a fall was there, my countrymen, addresses the crowd directly to pull them in. What are the themes used by Shakespeare? Firstly, the power of rhetoric versus plain truth. Antony's emotional manipulation defeats Brutus's honest logic. Shakespeare shows how you say something matters more than what you say. Appearance versus reality. Antony comes to bury Caesar, not to praise him. He claims he is no orator. Both are lies. His entire speech is a masterpiece of disguised intent. The mob and democracy. The fickle crowd is swayed by whoever spoke last. They have no fixed principles. There, let him be Caesar, shows they want power, not liberty. Manipulation and deception. Antony withholds the will to create desire. He uses the mantle as a prop, names each wound personally. Every technique is calculated, not spontaneous. Honor and its limits. Brutus's honor prevents him from lying or manipulating. This is admirable, but politically suicidal. Honor without cunning is ineffective. Order versus chaos. A peaceful forum speech ends in arson, riot, and civil war. Antony deliberately destroys the order that Brutus sought to establish. Loyalty and revenge. Antony's loyalty to Caesar was absolute. It is what drives him to destroy his killers. He is not motivated by principle like Brutus was, but he is motivated by personal love and revenge for his murdered friend. Death and legacy. Caesar is more powerful dead than alive. His will and his wounds speak louder than any living argument Brutus can make. I have set out a vocabulary list which translates the words from Old English into New English. If you have a problem, you need to refer to your book, see the words you don't understand, and then look at their meanings the way I have set it out. Here, I have given you some key passages. Who the speaker is, what is the context in which they are speaking, and the meaning of these passages. Please look them over and understand them. As usual, I have taken the time to give you some questions along with their answers. These questions are context-based, extract-based, short and long answer questions. You need to read the scene, study the scene, and answer these questions. The answer key is provided in case you have any difficulty whatsoever. Exam tips. What exactly do examiners look for? Friends, Romans, countrymen. The opening of Antony's speech. Know it. Analyze the word order. The dramatic irony. Not to praise him. The contrast with Brutus's opening. Most frequently examined passage. Brutus is an honorable man. The irony technique. Why repetition works. Why Antony never directly accuses Brutus. How the crowd's reaction shifts with each repetition. Prose versus verse. Brutus delivers his speech in prose. Antony gives his in verse. One appeals to the head, the other appeals to the heart. This contrast shows who controls the scene. Examiners love this observation. The most unkindest cut of all, double superlative. It is grammatically incorrect. Why Antony singles out Brutus's wound. How language is manipulated for emotional effect. Now let it work. Mischief thou art afoot. This soliloquy of Antony's reveals that he is not simply grieving. He is a political manipulator. It connects to appearance versus the reality theme. The fickleness of the mob. From cheering Brutus to burning his house. See the contrast, see the journey. What this tells you about democracy. Emotion versus reason and the danger of mass politics. Always link these to the themes. The power of rhetoric. Antony's technique versus Brutus's plain prose. Appearance versus reality. I come to bury Caesar, not to praise him. Manipulation. Every device that Antony uses is calculated. Nothing is spontaneous. The mob. Fickleness. Danger. How easily they are manipulated. Honor. Brutus's honesty versus Antony's cunning. That's the scene there for you then. I do hope I have been of help. If I have, do remember to like, subscribe and share. Remember, there would be others who would be requiring our help. Thank you so much for watching.